Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will focus on mating systems. We will first look at what we mean by a mating system. We will then talk about different ways of describing mating systems. After that, we will look at how three aspects of a species' biology is closely linked, namely mating system, parental care and sexual selection. We will talk about additional complexity that results in variation in mating systems, which includes multiple mating and variable behavior. We will move on to discuss the ecology of mating systems, that is how ecological conditions shape mating systems. And finally, we will focus a little on plant mating systems, because there we have an interesting range of strategies that arise because of the ecology of plants. So, what do we mean by a mating system? The mating system of a population refers to the way in which males and females acquire mates. Historically, descriptions of mating systems have focused on the number of social mates. So, all of you are probably very familiar with this terminology. By monogamy, we usually mean a system in which a male and a female mate. Polygyny refers to a system where one male mates with multiple females. Polyandry refers to a situation where one female mates with multiple males, and promiscuity broadly refers to a situation where both males and females mate multiply. However, there is much more diversity and complexity in the natural world than these categories convey. For example, with molecular tools starting to be used, we discovered that the mating systems that were initially described, like monogamy and polygyny, only described obvious bonds and relationships between males and females. When behavioral ecologists analyzed the parentage of offspring of these bonded males and females, they revealed extensive multiple mating. So, even in a socially monogamous system, offspring of social partners often had fathers or mothers who were individuals different from the social partner. So, what these two graphs show you here is, for birds and for mammals, what is the extent of extra pair paternity. So, these are cases where the female has mated with a male who is not her social partner, and this can be either in a monogamous system or a polygynous system. So, in birds, you can see that there is a low level of extra pair paternity in more than 60% of species. In a few species, you can have more than 20% of extra pair paternity. And now remember, most birds are actually socially monogamous. In mammals, which are mostly polygynous, here too paternity by individuals who are not the social partner of the female can be very high. So, such extra pair paternity is much higher in mammals than in birds. So, simple categories of monogamy and polygyny fail to describe these rich relationships. Secondly, even within a particular category of mating system, across populations or across species, we see a lot of variation in the strength of associations between males and females. So, for example, in some species there are long-term bonds between males and females. In the red-winged blackbird, for example, males and females form pairs either monogamous or polygynous groups during a breeding season. In the common langur on the right, males and females are found in multi-male and multi-female groups, and these groups stay together, males and females in these groups stay together across multiple breeding seasons. On the other hand, in several other species, the associations between males and females are very brief. So, for example, in the rock lizard on the left, females are solitary and dispersed, males move over an area and associate briefly with females that are there in the area. On the right, you have an African antelope, and in this species, males defend these territories that contain resources. Multiple females move through these territories, mate with the male and leave. So, both these are polygynous systems, but in both these polygynous systems, the time for which males and females associate is very brief. So, how do we go about understanding this diversity in mating systems? First, we need to understand that the mating system in a population is the outcome of females and males maximizing reproductive success. The interesting thing here is that there are sex differences in what limits reproductive success. That is, the factor that limits female reproductive success need not be the same as the factor that limits male reproductive success. Females produce larger gametes, and on top of that, very often they also invest in parental care through gestation or through feeding after the offspring are born. So, female reproductive success, that is the number of successfully surviving offspring, female reproductive success is often limited by the resources she can get. Males, on the other hand, produce many small gametes, and they are limited by how many females they can fertilize. The Bateman gradient is one way to capture this difference. What this shows you is that as the number of mates increases, a female's reproductive success, number of offspring increases only slightly. On the other hand, with every additional female a male mates with, he is able to sire additional offspring, and therefore, his reproductive success continues to increase. These biological differences between females and males act together with other aspects of a species' biology to affect mating systems. Broadly, mating systems are affected by forms of parental care, of sexual selection, and in turn they feedback and affect parental care and sexual selection also. So, to understand mating system diversity, we need to understand how parental care, sexual selection and mating systems interact and play out. Let us first take up this link between parental care and mating systems. In some species, like in some birds or actually many birds, biparental care is essential for offspring survival. If a male mates with a female and deserts the female, if the female were then to lay eggs and incubate them and then provision them, in many species a single parent's care is not sufficient for successful offspring survival. So, a male's fitness is higher when the male stays back with the female in a monogamous system and helps to raise offspring, compared to if the male were to leave, find another female to mate and not provide any parental care. So, when biparental care is essential for offspring survival, we typically see social monogamy. In some cases, even if offspring are able to survive without biparental care, if male parental care is important and can increase a female's reproductive success, female aggression towards other females can constrain a male's mating options, and that can also result in monogamy. Basically, because females chase away other females from a territory, and therefore the male cannot recruit multiple females to form nests, for example, on his territory. Now, even in systems with male parental care, ecology can affect the form of mating system. So, polygyny, where one male has multiple female partners, polygyny can evolve if resources are abundant. So, for example, consider a situation where there are two territories, one in which there is an unmated male and one in which there is a male who already has a female partner. Now, a new female coming into the area has to decide between pairing with the unmated male or settling and pairing with the male who already has a female on his territory. Which decision she adopts will depend on which decision gives her higher fitness, higher reproductive success. So, what this graph shows you is the female reproductive success for the monogamous female. So, if a female decides to be monogamous versus a female deciding to settle with a male who already is mated with a previous female. So, as you can see, in a condition where resources are abundant, territory A, the quality of territory A is so high compared to B that this female gets higher fitness from settling on territory A than by settling on territory B. So, if resources are high, the quality of territories may be high enough that a male can successfully recruit multiple females to settle onto his territory. And females are willing to forego the cost of reduced male parental care for the benefits they get from the increased territory quality. Let us now look at the link between sexual selection and mating systems. Sexual selection refers to the competition between individuals of a sex for mates. As we just discussed, we expect female reproductive success to generally be limited by access to resources, and we expect male reproductive success to be limited by access to mates. Now, in systems with no parental care, since females, remember, are trying to maximize their access to resources, how resources are distributed in an area will affect how females are distributed in the area. And now, because males are attempting to maximize the number of mates, this distribution of females in the area will affect how males are dispersed in the area. When females are solitary and dispersed, perhaps because resources are uniformly and evenly distributed in an area, under such a situation, defense of multiple females by a male is difficult. So, if a male were to try to sequentially mate with multiple females, he might face competition from other males who might approach and mate with a female when the focal male has moved on. So, defense of multiple females from other males is difficult, and under such a situation, social monogamy gives the highest fitness to males. On the other hand, when females are clustered now a male can potentially successfully defend multiple mates. So, the maximum potential reproductive success for males is high, which means the males who are able to successfully defend females get very high mating success, whereas the losers remain unmated. So, there is very high mating skew. The variance in male reproductive success is very high. This results in high sexual selection, high competition to be those successful males who get the maximum number of mates. And under these conditions, we see social polygyny evolve, where one male is partnered with multiple females. However, when females are extremely clustered, either because they are in very large groups or because they are all receptive at the same time. So, there are many females available to mate either locally, in space or in time. Then again it becomes very difficult for a single male to try to successfully monopolize or defend multiple females from other males. And under such conditions, you get very diverse mating systems. So, you may get scramble competition. So, in some species, males attempt to mate with females and then move on to find another receptive female, mate with her. So, there is not contest competition, that is direct fights between males, rather there is scramble competition. You may see other very interesting mating systems emerge when females are extremely clustered, like the Lek-mating system, where males do not approach females. Instead, males establish small display territories on which they display their quality, and females approach these clusters of males, sample multiple males, may choose one or more males, mate with one or more males, and then leave that area called the Lek. Now, in the discussion till now, we have been talking about how males benefit from gaining multiple mates and that females are focused on resources. However, there is a lot of evidence now that females also mate multiply in many different systems. So, the extra pair paternity that I was talking to you about is a result of multiple mating by females. How do females benefit from multiple mating? They benefit in ways that can be quite different from the benefits that males get from multiple mating. First of all, females may gain through better male quality, which can translate into higher offspring survival or higher offspring reproduction. So, for example, this is a very interesting species, this fairy wren species on the top right. This is a monogamous system where males and females form socially monogamous pairs. The male is on the left and the female is on the right. Now, in this species, extra pair paternity is very high, more than 50% sometimes. So, here the idea is, because males provide care in species like this, females may mate with males of poorer quality if the higher quality males are already paired up. So, they mate with the poorer quality males to gain parental care from the male. However, they might also have hidden mating tactics where they find high quality extra pair mates. So, they get parental care benefits from their social partner and indirect genetic benefits, quality benefits from their extra pair partner. Another possible reason for why females mate multiply is in systems where males provide care to females that they are mated with and where they believe that some of the offspring may result from matings with that female, or where males provide resources in the form of nuptial gifts. So, here females may mate with multiple males so that they have multiple males helping at the nest. In some birds, you can have these polygynandrous associations where females may successfully recruit multiple males to take care of offspring. Another possible reason is thought to be common for many primates and some carnivores and rodents, which is paternity confusion. So, as I mentioned to you before, in some species, males who come in to an area and either take over the territory or take over the group that females form from other males. When you have such male takeover, males may kill offspring in the group so that females become receptive, males can mate with these females and gain reproductive success. So, females are thought to engage in multiple mating both with their social partners and with males in the area close by to create paternity confusion, so that if there is a potential takeover, males do not kill their offspring, because those offspring could potentially be fathered by these new males. Another factor that can increase the diversity in mating systems is variation within a population in the form of mating tactics that you see individuals show. So, for example, in some species or in some populations of some species, you may see multiple mating tactics within a population. So, you do not have a simple case of all individuals forming monogamous bonds or all individuals showing polygyny. Instead, you can have some individuals showing monogamy and some individuals showing polygyny. In the blackbuck antelope, within the same population, you can see some individuals displaying on leks, some males defending resource territories that attract females, and some males moving in female herds and trying to defend females who are in estrus. So, you have all these mating tactics occurring within the same population, which again makes categorizing mating systems into simple categories. It makes the task very difficult, and it also hides the richness of these relationships and the factors that result in such complexity. Finally, let us talk about the ecology of mating systems. As we discussed before, especially when there is no parental care by males, we expect that female dispersion decides the potential or describes the potential for the defense of multiple mates by males, and this influences male dispersion, the degree of monopolization of mates by males. Now, what results in differences in female dispersion? Ecological conditions like predation intensity and resources can affect female dispersion. So, when there is very high predation, females may cluster, social group living may be favored and females may cluster in space, which will increase the potential for polygyny. If resources are distributed widely and sparsely in space, females might also be dispersed, which will reduce the potential for polygyny. Under some situations, resources can be so clumped and abundant that this can actually increase offspring, the potential for offspring production in females. And under such cases, you can actually see sex role reversal, where now females do better. Females have higher variance in reproductive success, and they compete for multiple mates, and males are the ones who are choosy. So, here is a situation where you see sex role reversal and you see one female mated with multiple mates. Let's now talk about mating systems in plants. If we focus on mating systems in flowering plants, there is a remarkable diversity. A key biological trait of plants sets the stage for a range of remarkable mating systems. Because plants are immobile, they rely on pollen vectors. This can include animals, wind, water, and so on. Animal vectors are probably the most common in flowering plants, and together with hermaphroditism, this results in diverse mating patterns. So, in most plants, both male and female reproductive parts are carried within the same flower, and this results in a phenomenon called selfing, which is self-fertilization. Because of vectors, especially animal vectors and selfing, if we just look at mating patterns in plants, we see typically promiscuous mating patterns with an individual having multiple mating partners including itself. So, rather than categorize mating systems in plants the way we do with animals, so we just saw how in animal mating systems we categorize them according to whether males and females have single or multiple mating partners. In plants, the main basis for categorizing mating systems is the degree of self-fertilization versus outcrossing. There is extensive variation in selfing, and it is worth talking about the benefits and costs of such self-fertilization. Some of the main benefits are reproductive assurance, that is, because plants are immobile, if they are in environments where vector based pollination is difficult, this can result in a limitation on successful fertilization. Selfing provides a reproductive assurance in such cases. A second benefit that has been proposed is that there is increased gene contributions to future generations. However, there are serious costs, one of which is increased homozygosity, because of which one can see the expression of negative recessive alleles and associated inbreeding depression. Another potential cost is that resources, pollen, ovules that could have been used for outcrossing might now be taken up by self-fertilization. There are several adaptations to avoid selfing, and these include separation of male and female reproductive parts on separate flowers. So, you have seen there are systems like monaceae or dioeciae where we might have plants with only male flowers and plants with only female flowers, or plants carrying both male and female flowers, or plants with hermaphrodites and female flowers. So, a lot of variation gauged towards modulating the degree of selfing. Another adaptation is temporal separation, where male and female reproductive parts develop at different rates. You might also see spatial segregation of male and female parts on a plant. So, what we have covered till now is talking about what a mating system of a population refers to, different ways of describing mating systems including number of mates, extra pair matings, reasons for multiple mating by females, different forms of male-female associations, and variable mating behavior within the same population. We have also talked about the link between mating systems, parental care and sexual selection, and how multiple mating and variable behavior can add to the diversity of mating systems in nature. Finally, we also looked at how ecological conditions can affect the costs and benefits of how males and females can maximize reproductive success and therefore affect the form of mating system that emerges in that population. So, with this we end the lecture on mating systems. Thank you.